Peter Meijer is with us. He's a congressman from Michigan. I believe he replaced Justin Amash, and he's one of the two congressmen that went to Kabul, to the airport. I guess the military was upset because, they were busy, whatever, but we are a military that is run by the public and by private citizens and private oversight from our congressman. So I personally am glad that he went over, and he went over with a Democrat as well. Peter joins us now. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Glenn. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. What did you find over in Kabul? You came back, you were there a few days ago, right?
Yes, we were there on Tuesday, just for about 15 hours on the ground. We found a chaotic situation that we should have never put our service members in, but that each and every American there, soldier, sailor, Marine, airman, diplomat, just working around the clock, working their hearts out to save as many American lives and our Afghan allies as possible. Okay.
So can you tell me why the State Department, and I'm not saying the people on the tarmac, the State Department is out of control and just seemingly blocking private efforts?
No, they are overwhelmed, and they are behind the eight ball. This has been a State Department-led withdrawal, and while I'm generally supportive and don't think that a diplomatic effort should be military-led, this is a military operation that the State Department is simply overwhelmed at the leadership level to be able to handle. They're scrambling, and it's utter chaos.
Who made this decision to put the State Department? Because isn't it usually when it's a withdrawal like this, the military does it because that's what they do best?
Yeah, I think this comes straight from the top, from President Biden. And that gets to the root of the chaos, the mismanagement, and the incompetence of this whole mission. Everything was going along smoothly until it wasn't. And when it started to go south and go south fast, we did not have leadership that was able to rapidly adapt. We did not have those plans in place. And that's why you're seeing the mad scramble. That's why you're seeing our soldiers and Marines being put in the impossible positions that they are. It should have never happened. It's President Biden's fault that it is. But this is the impossible mission that those folks have had to undertake.
So, and I understand that, the president is the president. He's the commander in chief, and he makes the decisions. But I don't understand the logic of the president, or I don't understand the Pentagon. If they were actually saying to the president, yes, we should get rid of Bagram, there's no strategic value in that, even if it's just no strategic value until this operation is over and we're all out. Do you believe the Pentagon is advising and cool with all the things that we're doing right now?
I've talked to folks at the Department of Defense who are heartbroken, who are frustrated beyond all measure. You're talking about a lot of professionals who have spent their livelihoods, their careers, the past 2 decades, right, risking their life, working alongside Afghans, and to see that all crumble in a matter of days has been a gut blow of the highest order. And then to also see the failures to plan and this mad scramble and the horror of the past, couple of days, I'm really worried about what's going to happen in the coming weeks and months there. But again,
what do you mean by that? Hang on just a second. What do you mean by that? For the people on the ground or for us?
For all of us. Right now, there is a massive mobilization of thousands of veterans, of former diplomats, of former Department of Defense civilians, of aid workers, of journalists working around the clock to get as many people out as possible, running on adrenaline, burning the candle at both ends. And right now, that pipeline is about to get shut off, right? That effort, their attempts to save the lives of their friends, to save the lives of Americans, to save the lives of Afghans who risked it all to support our U.S. mission. When that when there's no longer hope at the end of that, when that is cut off, I'm deeply concerned. I think we're going to see consequences we can't imagine right now.
How does this, I think most Americans are fine. They wanted an end of an ongoing 20-year war on terror. That is the most ridiculous thing we ever did, was we're fighting a concept of terror. And it's morphing and it's bleeding into here. We've made all kinds of mistakes. But let me ask you, if you were president of the United States and I assume you wanted to get out, I think all Americans do, how should we have done this?
It should have been careful. It should have been exacting. It should have been willing to respond to situations on the ground. I spent 2013 to 2015 in Afghanistan. I believe that there was no military conclusion to the mission there, that you had to result in a blended power sharing government. But in the span of a few weeks, every single bit of leverage we had in order to impress the Taliban to accept that outcome vanished.
Give it up.
And we did not change our posture. We did not change our withdrawal. We did not, from the beginning, emphasize the evacuation of our loyal Afghan allies and American citizens. Those mistakes, we had predicted. I was part of the bipartisan group pushing on this, going back to April, saying we have time now, move fast because we don't know if we'll have time later. And we were rebuffed, we were ignored. You talk about Bagram Air Base, you talk about all of these components, the idea that we withdraw our military before we withdraw civilians. We would not be in the position we are today if we had prioritized and gone in with that worst case scenario planning. And as a result, we have just been scrambling for the past several weeks. The forces on the ground doing the best that they can, but with that vacuum of leadership from the top.
There are two things that I think are absolutely reprehensible, and I don't say this politically by any stretch of the imagination. One of the most impeachable things I have ever seen, and I remember Nixon and I remember Clinton and all of them. The most impeachable thing I have seen is the fact that we left Black Hawk helicopters for them, and that we left all kinds of technology, including the Air Force Base, including our embassy, and our president may have either just left behind the names of all the people that helped us, or actually okayed giving a list to the Taliban. Any comment on any of that?
We need a unsparing accountability for everything that has happened, for the multiple failures, many of which you outlined there, but there are additional ones. Continuing to deny that Al-Qaeda has a presence there, continuing to deny that Americans are stranded. This has been leadership failure upon strategic failure upon operational failure. But it's also been a congressional failure to exert oversight. You talk about all of those weapons. You talk about the way this war has gone on for close to 20 years. Imagine if every member of Congress had to vote every term to keep forces there, to cast that vote on whether or not to risk American lives and demand to know why. Imagine if every single one of those Black Hawk helicopters that was sold, all of that armament that's currently in the hands of the Taliban, imagine if Congress had to pass in both houses a measure of support in order to do that. Right? We have had a Congress that has checked out, and we have had a presidencies that have been able to operate with impunity. And this tragic conclusion over the past several weeks is what happens when we just trust the president and do not exert our constitutional oversight. So there has to be unsparing criticism and examination and accountability.
Do you think that's going to happen? We've got Nancy Pelosi talking about women's rights yesterday instead of any of this. Is that going to happen? Because that seems like a pipe dream, Peter, at this point.
We had a Republican call last night. I'll be honest, I am more angry than I let on right now because I am heartbroken at the lives that were lost on Thursday at the airport. I am exhausted from our round-the-clock efforts to get American citizens and our loyal Afghan allies out. We are still in triage mode, but I am committed, and I think our Republican leadership is committed to that unsparing accountability and holding everyone who is responsible and culpable for these failures to account.
I hope so. Peter Meijer, thank you very much, Congressman from Michigan.